guys. Now we will go through the vulnerability related to the HTML injection reflected URL. First we log into the application with default credentials with low severity. Login. Yes, no. Select the HTML injection reflected current URL and click on hack. First we'll try to analyze this particular request, how it's handling. Here we are unable to see anything, only the URL. It is exactly what it is there in the URL bar. Application is reflecting that particular URL here. Turn on the interceptor, reload the page, analyze the request here. It's forwarding a get method, that means it is fetching the get of that current URL. Yes, we'll click on the forward now. Yes, this is what exactly happening here. And now we'll try to inject the HTML payload here. Yes, here in this particular URL we are not having any other parameters here, only the URL field is here. So that's the reason what we are going to do here. In the URL field we are going to give one of the parameter ourselves. So over the HTML code here, close the HTML payload tag and forward the request. See here, the application reflected the URL along with the HTML payload which we injected here in the request. So this is how we can reproduce this particular vulnerability. We'll go through the code also why this particular vulnerability exists in the application. Okay, so we'll go to the HTML current URL PHP. That is the vulnerability we are concentrating, correct? We can see the URL also. Sorry, HTML current URL. Okay, we are analyzing the code and we can see the severity is 0 now, that means the low. Here we can see URL function is there where it is having the protocol of the HTTP. Okay, and URL should use this particular HTTP protocol. Next, the server HTTP host. That means what exactly the server HTTP host is. It is going to fetch the host header from the HTTP request. Okay, whatever it may be the host it is available in the particular HTTP request, it is going to fetch that. That means it is our server IP address. Let's assume that. Forward this request to repeater. This host it is fetching. Okay, next, and server request URI. It is requesting the URI path. That means we enter the payload there. It is fetching that particular payload. You can see here. So in the particular previous request we entered the HTML payload there. After this particular page it is going to fetch the URI. Simply we entered I equal to payload here. This particular payload it is returning the code. Okay, so whatever it may be the host and the URI parameter, the application is going to reflect it in the front end user loaded page. So there is no protection here. It is not encoding any characters or it is not going to filter any characters here. That's the reproducible and reason for this particular vulnerability. And now we'll go through the vulnerability, the same vulnerability, the severity of medium. Click on set medium, set. Yes, okay. Intercept the request again, reload the page. Forward the request. In low severity, the HTML code executed here, but in the medium severity it's not executing. So we'll try to use the encoders. Encoder payload, copy the payload, hit enter. See, this is the payload which we injected. Click on forward and analyze. See here, exactly whatever it may be the payload we entered here, it is reflecting. It's not executing. I mean, the page is not rendering our payload. We'll try to do double encoding. Do one more time encoding. Copy. Intercept the request. Hit enter. Forward the request. See here. Same, it is exactly reflecting whatever it may be the data we entered here. Because there is some of the sort of implementation at the server side, we'll analyze that particular code. Here we are unable to crack this particular medium severity and high severity also in this particular HTML injection reflected URL. Only we are able to crack the low severity. Because of the reason, we'll analyze the code of medium severity now. Yes, here see. For this particular medium severity, the case 01, that means the severity ID is 1. And here we can see there is a URL is there, a variable is being declared here. What is that particular variable? The variable is declaring the JavaScript payload, I mean the JavaScript code. Okay, what exactly it is trying to do? It is going to write the URL to the document. That means this particular URL is handling by this particular JavaScript code. So whatever it may be the URL we enter, this JavaScript code is going to display that URL in our HTML page. It is not going to execute, it is only displaying that in our page. That's the reason we are unable to reproduce this vulnerability. Okay, as like the same, we'll try to select the high severity and click on set. The same approach here, it is also happening. We are unable to just yes, does the payload, hit enter. Sorry, it is redirected to Google. We'll enter in the request only. Yes, refresh the page. End of the URL, add the parameter, I mean the URI. This is the encoded value. We'll try this also. Click on forward. Yes, nothing is happening here. Same, it is reflecting. Again, we can do this using the normal plain payload without any encoding. Forward, it's not executing, simply it is reflecting the data what we entered there. So we'll try to analyze the code. Even though the high severity we are unable to exploit because of the protection level implemented at the server side. Okay, here we can see now the code of that particular HTML vulnerability reflected URL high severity. Here we can enable see URL parameter where it is calling only the HTTP. This is using the HTTP protocol, and server, it is getting the server HTTP host header. Okay, this retrieves the host name from the server headers. That means whatever it may be the request we are there, it is retrieving the server host header from them. Okay, next this is going to retrieve the URI. That means what is the URI here? We can see the URI which is related to the parameter which we entered. I mean single question mark r equal to id equal to some HTML payload we entered. It is going to fetch that particular URI, I mean the path and parameter. And next, the main protection level is implemented at the XSS check 3. This function is going to check the XSS checks. That means whatever it may be the special characters it is having, it is going to verify that special characters and it is going to encode the special characters. We'll analyze this particular XSS check 3. We can see here, this is the XSS check 3 function where it is using the encoding of the UTF-8. Whatever it may be the data we entered, it is using the encoding of UTF-8. So here what exactly happens using this particular encoding? If we enter the single quote, double quote, less than, greater than, ampersand, these all characters are going to encode using this particular technique protection. So it is going to using the HTML special characters. That means it is going to use the all HTTP and HTML entities. Whatever it may be the special characters we enter, this particular function is handling the special characters and it is going to encode and reflected in the page. So even that's the reason we are unable to exploit this vulnerability in the high severity. Currently, in the current situation, only we are able to exploit this vulnerability in low severity. Coming to the medium and high severity, already we gone through that. For the medium severity, simply the JavaScript is displaying the URL what we entered there. I mean what the URL is there in the particular request. But coming to the high severity, here exactly it is displaying the host name and the URI, but along with them there is a XSS check function where it encodes the special characters. That's all, hackers. Thank you.